Okay, so we're now moving to our second country ambassador for today. Unfortunately, the first one from Nepal didn't work, but we will have Christella Uwamahoro from Rwanda on the line. There she is. Hello, Christella. Okay, I think you might be muted, so you need to unmute your microphone. No, actually, I see that your microphone's
Okay, I
working.
think I
Yes,
just did.
that's much better. Absolutely can hear you and see you just fine. So Christella is going to be talking to us today about Rwanda, a little bit of her background. She's the operations manager at YEGO, YEGO Innovision, a digital mobility solution provider. She's also the access to finance manager at Rwanda ICT Chamber. And over the last few years, she's been working in the Rwandan innovation and technology ecosystem, designing and implementing digital services, innovation projects, and programs to support technology companies. So Christella, welcome to the the World Innovations Forum Digital Conference is what I wanted to say. We have a few minutes to discuss the situation in Rwanda. So could you give us perhaps some background, keeping in mind that many in the audience are probably asking themselves, so do I want to go to Rwanda, start a business there? What does the framework look like, and how has the country been affected by COVID-19?
Thank you very much, Douglas. To give a bit of a background on the progress of the entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem here, over the last decade, we've been having over 10,000 graduates over here, and the employment market is very small. And so the government has set a very ambitious goal to actually create over 100,000 jobs by 2025. Mm-hmm. And what did we do to achieve that? So the government has put a lot of effort to actually encourage the youth to create jobs by themselves. And by doing that, so many innovation hubs and incubation centers were created to support them, and by the academia being the feeding mechanism, because graduates were and the employment market was really small, and they were out there doing nothing. So introduction, the creation, the emergence of innovation hubs really helped. And over the last 8 years, actually, we've had businesses coming out of the innovation hubs and incubation centers, and 500, which is actually 25%, have reached their break-even point. And that's a really good sign. And more of there are so many more in the pipeline who are still, going through programs to be investment ready, for them to be able to raise capital to grow and scale their businesses. And in the context of opportunities that are here for foreign startups, the whole startup scene and the business environment have attracted so many entrepreneurs to come here and pilot their projects before they actually scale to other emerging countries. And shout out to our government, which has created more packages of incentives, from easing their travel, getting temporary residents. And like we have, Rwanda is the second country in Africa, the second safest country in Africa, and the 11th in the world. Okay. So that really make it easier for people to work here. And number two, we have a very low level of corruption, which I could even say zero corruption compared to other countries. And that makes it easier for entrepreneurs / investors to be able to work here, like establish their businesses. And we also have a very supportive regulatory framework, where because technology with entrepreneurship, our policies are always evolving. And the country and the agency in charge of regulations make it easier and investors to actually enact new supporting policies and regulations.
Excellent.
And,
Okay, so that's very
yeah, I
promising.
actually
Go ahead.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So regarding the impact of COVID-19, of course, as all the globally, it really affected everything. And according to our International Monetary Fund, the IMF forecasted a drop in the economic growth from 8% to 5.1%, which is a result of COVID-19 impact.
Mm-hmm.
And also, according to the Ministry of Finance, the service sector is the most affected compared to agriculture and industry. It's actually crazy because I was reading this, and it shows that over the last, in March and April, only 2 months, the tourism industry has missed out about 10 million USD, while the hospitality had missed out 3 billion Rwandan francs in
Mm-hmm.
just 2 months. And we're already
Mm-hmm.
June, almost July. You can do the math. But
Mm-hmm.
again, this poses a threat to the startups and entrepreneurs who are into those sectors. However, the pandemic really created an opportunity for entrepreneurs here to digitize their services. Most of the traditional companies who are doing, like face-to-face service, they had to digitize their services because it was the only way. And it also gave entrepreneurs an opportunity to solve challenges, new challenges. And I actually have to say that so many entrepreneurs ventured into online businesses such as e-commerce delivery because it was the only way to survive, and they had to actually revamp their business model for them to be able to sustain their businesses even in other pandemic that would ever happen in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, moving forward, I think there is a very big need of financing the private sector um, because it's really difficult for companies, for entrepreneurs that were most hit by this pandemic, especially those who are into tourism and the hospitality. And so the National Central Bank is working with the commercial banks to actually reduce the ratio, the lending ratio, so that they reduce theirs as well. And moving forward, we hope that the government announced a 50 billion fund to help the affected businesses recover, and we hope that this will actually make support entrepreneurs to have to access an affordable source of financing with less stringent requirements for
Mm-hmm.
them to be able to recover. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So it's a message I think we've heard several times, both today and yesterday, that the corona pandemic, the crisis, is basically forcing innovation on countries, Switzerland's included there. Thanks to the shutdown, the lockdown, people are forced to do digitalization. It's top of the agenda right now, and it seems
Yeah.
to be the same situation in Rwanda. Okay, good. You also work at Yego. So could you perhaps focus on a project or two that you think is like a success story, something that worked quite well? I'm sure you all have other stories about things that didn't work so well as too, but if you could focus on the things that you think worked well, to perhaps give people an idea of a project that that is feasible, that's viable, that worked out.
Yeah, this is very interesting actually, because last night I was talking to my boss, who is a foreigner entrepreneur slash investor here, and we're discussing about these challenges he faced as an investor here, and it was quite interesting. So basically, we offer a digital mobility solution. It's a bit similar to Uber, but it's a market fit solution because not everyone here has a smartphone. Not everyone is familiar with using an application. So what we do, we install intelligent connected fare meter in taxi and motor cabs, in taxi cabs and motor taxis. which help. It's basically, it provides cashless payments. It also build a credit score for the motor drivers and cab drivers. So basically, over the last 3 years, we've been able to build credit scores for those people in the informal sector who used to not have any credit score. They couldn't be able to access insurance services. They couldn't access bank loans because they didn't have a record. So, working with more than 1,000 cab drivers and about 2,000 motorcyclists really helped. We saw people growing, we saw people moving from a traditional way of doing business to a digital, technology-enabled system. And yeah, and even during this COVID, it was easy for us. It was easy for the company to actually contribute towards mitigating the risks of spreading COVID-19, because we have the cashless payment option integrated within our meters. And besides that, those entrepreneurs doing a taxi business, they are able to see how their business is growing, and even be able to access to be digitally and financially included.
Okay, so basically allowing people access to the capital that they need, even if they haven't had access to it before, to get things going. Okay, very interesting. Thank you very much. We have a question from the audience about the opportunities for eco-business in Rwanda, and if there's any noticeable effect from global warming and climate change.
I think there are plenty of opportunities actually in all sectors, especially in eco-business, because we have so many partners actually venturing into this, and there is a need of the private sector to tap into that, to encourage the public-private partnership to be able to actually solve the biggest challenges. So with a network of the players who are solving the same challenges, there is a need to partner, to put hands together to actually identify the local challenges that are being faced on every level. And I'll be able to actually touch base with the person who asked the question, because I'll be able to actually indicate, to show him doors to where they can knock, and be able to actually contribute to this bigger vision.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. So I hope that was heard. And one question, you mentioned some challenges that perhaps people are facing, entrepreneurs are facing when they come to Rwanda. What do you think is one of the main challenges, and are there ways to deal with it?
Like every emerging country, every developing country, there are so many challenges, but I'll just touch base on the main challenges, which is number one, the culture, the work culture, the behavior, and all that. As I mentioned earlier, I was speaking to my boss, and I was like, oh, what will be your 3 top challenges that you face as an entrepreneur / investor? So the first one, we cannot really neglect this, because culture really counts. And he was saying that it's really it takes some time to feel integrated in the whole community, because of the culture differences, and also like the decision making process is quite different from other countries. But again, moving on, the biggest challenges, we have physical infrastructure challenge. Of course, the transport facilities. I can say that we lack infrastructure, because of the last decades, the government has been putting a lot of effort to develop infrastructure. As a foreign entrepreneur, you might find it as a big challenge because of where you come from, especially if your business, or like your factory is based up country in remote areas, and this really affects the pricing strategy. Yet the purchasing power is really low, and we could also look. Most of the digital service providers, they are very concerned on the telecommunication, communication network. I can say it's really bad. It's evolving like everywhere else, and especially the challenge is more big in remote areas where the communication network is not that great. So people really, struggle with that. But again, I'm happy to say that, as of last year, the mobile phone ownership has raised to 72%, while the internet 52%. A sign, and the LTE or 4G net coverage has covered all the districts of the country. But again, it's still a challenge. So the next challenge that I would say is financing, like, everywhere. Financing is still a challenge on both ends, on the demand side as well as on the supply side. Now that we're talking about the entrepreneurs, we would focus on the demand side. Entrepreneurs, in most cases, happen to lack documentation required to actually access a different source of funding, which could be a loan, which could be a grant, which could be equity, VC, and so on and so forth. And also, there is this challenge of being, most of the projects are risk averse. Like, people don't believe in that. They feel like, oh, this high has like very high risk. You can't really risk this. And again, if you look at bank expensive and they're very short term, and looking at the startups growth path, it becomes really difficult for them to tap into that. And if you look at equity, it takes ownership and the freedom of entrepreneurs. They don't really have control anymore. They have, like, some percentages left. Again, those are challenges, but again, we have working with looking at the local investment and finance ecosystem. We are working so hard to tackle those challenges by creating affordable source of funding, meeting the business needs, and yeah, that's how it's going.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Some very interesting insights on doing business in Rwanda and how things are going at the moment. So Christella, once again, would like to thank you very much for your time and offering those points. And if anyone would like to connect with her, Christella Uwamahoro, I think I've got the last name right, reach out to her. She'd be happy to give you some doors to knock on and some pointers about working in Rwanda. Thank you very much.
Yeah.